Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Join me every week. I release new episodes every Tuesday. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 121. I am back after a week off, and it was very nice. I went away, and in this episode, I'm going to be sharing some very cool manifestations that happened. So I want this to be a reminder that you can manifest anything you want, even when on vacation. So if you are a new listener, welcome. You can go back and start from episode 1 if you want to know my full story. If you want to cherry pick by title, you can definitely do that too. But I've recently been getting a lot of questions like, how did I find out I was a medium? How did this all start? Go see episode 1 to 10 and all your questions will be answered. So I recently posted on Instagram that I manifested a highlighter on the beach, and a lot of people are asking the story. So I will be telling that story in this week's podcast episode along with a few other stories, because it was a really good reminder for me that you can manifest whatever you want and that we live in a matrix. But also, I wanted to share this with you because I love when stuff like this happens. So I pulled one card this week from the Rebecca Campbell Work Your Light Oracle deck. To be honest, I pulled from this deck because I wanted to pull the manifestation card. And I was like, how cool would that be if it came out? But I didn't. So the card that I did pull was Warrior Woman. Have you answered your deepest calling? You are here for a reason. You are being called to bravely pave a path. Have you answered your highest and deepest calling? Living a heart and soul-led life is not all fluffy and smooth sailing. Living a heart and soul-fed life requires courage to triumph over fear. So often our fears are the gatekeepers to our greatest gifts. And the more resistance we have towards answering a call, the more important it is for our soul's growth. Sometimes fear is an indication that we are facing the right way. Joan of Arc was known for her courage and her famous line, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this." But the thing about courage is that it is not possible without fear. So, if you are feeling afraid, what is needed is courage. And courage comes from living from the heart. Think of your fears as opportunities to expand rather than things that are holding you hostage. If you are looking at your fears in this light, then as uncomfortable as it may feel, it's actually a sign that you are on the right track. Ooh, I like that, Warrior Woman. I've been getting a lot of questions about fear. How do you move past fear? What do you do when you have fear? And I was like, fear is good. Fear is good. So this is a really good card for that. Warrior Woman. If you want to see the card, if you don't have these decks, I post them every week on Instagram. If you want to come follow me at Medium in the Middle on Instagram or Facebook, you can see the cards. Okay, so I recently went on a trip to Mexico and it was amazing. It was so nice to be in the sun. I live somewhere where it's winter like 9 months of the year, so it was really, really nice to feel sun on my body and just relax by the pool. I did do Instagram, but no other form of work, so it was very relaxing and recharging. This is your reminder if you haven't had a vacation in years like a lot of us. Book one. Oh, it was so nice. So anyways, on vacation, I was still learning lessons, and a few things came up that I wanted to share here on the podcast with you because there was some good lessons. So the first thing that happened was I was checking us into the flight. I went with a friend, and there was an option there to upgrade to first class, and it said upgrade to first class for $250. And I thought, oh, like these are the vacation packages, so I'm sure everyone just clicked the cheapest option, so that's probably why they're trying to sell first class for so cheap. And I was like, normally I think first class is like thousands of dollars more, not just 250 Canadian dollars. So I really thought about it, and I was like, wow, like I heard a podcast once that said, fly first class once, and you will always find a way to fly first class after that. So I immediately thought of that quote and I was like, ooh, I'm being tested. I'm being tested here with my manifesting. I was like, $250. That's like the cheapest I'm probably ever going to fly first class. And it was a 6-hour flight. So I was like, if it's going to be any time, it's worth it for that. But I was going with a friend and I didn't want them to have to pay. So I just put no. And when I went through our seats, at the end, when we got our seat selection, my seat was in premium and my friend's seat was not. And I was like, oh. So interesting. But then again, I just thought, okay, this is just probably because the flight is full and they probably had to upgrade someone. So that's why only one of us got upgraded. So sure enough, we got on this flight and I am 2 rows behind first class. So my premium seat is 2 rows behind the first class curtain. So I could see first class my entire flight. And I just kept thinking, this is such a test because I can literally see their warm towel. I can see the drinks that they're getting. I could see the champagne being poured. I could see the wine. I could see their meals. I could see everything because the curtain was lightly cracked and I was the second row. And I thought to myself, I should have paid for first class. And I made a joke to my friend, like on the way home, I'll manifest both of us in premium or first class. But it was just really interesting because for that 6-hour flight, I had to stare at first class and I had to think about all the ways that I could have paid for that. So that was an interesting test. So that was test number 1. So again, I posted about this on Instagram, but I was referred a book from one of my Reiki students who ended up becoming one of my mentees in the 8-week program. And he told me about this book, Living Reiki, 4 times. And every time he told me, I would write it down, the name. And on the 4th time that he told me, I was like, you know what? I still have time to order it for my trip. So I'm going to order it now and read this on my trip to Mexico. So it was the first or second day and I start to read this book and within the first few pages, it's like banging. And there's so many things I want to highlight so I can refer back to it because I want to update my Reiki courses with some of this information. It was just like so good that I kept stopping myself from reading because I kept thinking like I need a highlighter and I'm not going to come back and highlight all these pages. So by the time I got to page 20, I was like, I have to stop reading because I want to highlight like so many good quotes. I need to add this to my courses. I need to use these as quotes. I just like need this information highlighted. And I usually always bring a highlighter. Another conversation we had was like, why is there never any pens on vacation? Like when you go on vacation, no one has a pen. So weird. I always bring a pen, but it was just like one of those things everyone's like, I don't have a pen. And then I was like, well, I need a highlighter. So I was like, where am I going to buy a highlighter? So I went to the resort, to a little shop on the resort, and I was like kind of looking around, and I was like, maybe I could ask front desk, maybe I could ask concierge, throw them a tip. Can I buy a highlighter off of you? But I walked around to all these desks, and I didn't see that anyone had a highlighter. Like no one at front desk had a highlighter. No one at concierge did. So I was like, oh, like how am I going to manifest a highlighter? And I kept picking up my book to go read it, and I kept like finding these banging things that I needed to highlight. And I was like, I can't keep reading until I have a highlighter. So then I was really on a mission. And this is kind of where like manifestation really kicks in when you really need something, it comes. So I was like, I need this highlighter because I need to read this book on vacation. I'm now on day like 3 and I can't just keep stopping because I don't have a highlighter. I don't want to underline it with a pen. Like I want a highlighter. We ended up going to book a tour. And while we were talking to the lady who's like selling you the tours, there's a bunch of people all selling tours and they all had highlighters. And I was like, maybe one of these people I can buy a highlighter off of them. So, she's trying to sell you this tour and they're on commission and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I like this tour. But where can I get a highlighter from? And I like look at her highlighter. And she was like, oh, like, I don't know. She's like, this is my only one. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to offer to buy her only highlighter. I was like, okay. And then we're like talking about the tour. And then she's like, you know what? You can have my highlighter. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. I was like, thank you so much. It's for some homework that I have to do. And I like read this book, whatever. And I said, just for that, I'm going to book the tour with you. So I booked the tour with this lady and I got her highlighter. And I was so happy. I ran to go read my book and highlight literally so many pages. I'm not finished the book yet, so I'm not fully going to recommend it yet, but I think it will become if it continues this to be this good, I think it will become a recommended reading for my level 2 Reiki courses, just because of how good this book is so far. So by this point in vacation, I'm feeling good. I had the premium seat, I had the highlighter, and it's like a game when it comes to manifesting. What else do I want? And at the pool, I saw everybody with these like floaties, like blow up donuts, floaties, like little beds that you can float around on. I was like, wow, like that would be really nice to have one of those. And here in Canada, they're like $1 to $7 at the dollar store. Maybe an increased price would be like $20. And it was all USD in Mexico. So I was like, you know what? I would pay $20 USD to float around on that thing for my last 4 days here. So I went to the gift shop and I was going to buy my floaty thinking it's probably $20 USD, which is already a crazy price. And these floaties were between 35 and 60 US dollars. Just plain donuts that blow up, just plain like little tubes, like the ones you get at the dollar store, guys. I'm not joking. They were $35 to $60 USD at the gift shop. And I am very cheap and I watch my money and I was just like, no, I won't do that. That's like $85 Canadian. No way. So I was like, no, I'm not buying this floaty. I'm just going to get one when someone leaves. I was like, everybody has a floaty and everyone has to leave. So when they're leaving, I'll just buy it off someone for, $10. So I was sitting by the pool and I could hear the people beside me talking about how they were about to leave and they had to go back to their room at 11 o'clock to shower, to check out by 12 o'clock. And I was just laying there. And then I noticed that they had a tube, a pink tube. And I was like, oh, I should ask them if I can buy their floaty off of them. And literally I was like opening my eyes, looking at their tube, cluing in like 2 and 2 together that like I could ask these people who are very clearly leaving if I could buy their tube. The little girl walks over to their tube and she had like just made a friend and she like gave the tube to her friend. And she was like, hey, we're leaving. Like you can have our tube. And I was like, oh, I missed my opportunity. Like I sat here and I just missed it. But it was the universe again giving it to me. I was like, are you kidding me? I like could have asked these people to buy their tube and they just gave it to this little girl. So anyway, so then I was sitting there and all I could think about was this floaty and how now I refuse to buy it for $60 because I'm leaving now in 3 days. So I'm walking back to the room with my friend and we're walking by this like empty pool. There's like no one sitting in any of the chairs by the pool. There's no one in this pool. So the hotel that I was at had like 12 pools. So while we were walking back to our room, this pool had no one in it. And we're walking around this like circle part and what is literally floating towards me but a floaty, an abandoned floaty. And I looked down at it and I said, huh. And I looked up at the sky and I said, thank you, universe. And I looked at my friend and I said, I told you I could manifest anything. And I picked up that floaty and I kept walking to my room. And they were like, you're just going to take it? And I was like, no one's here. It's abandoned. It's like coming into evening now. It's dark out. There's like no one's stuff was at any chairs. No one was in the pool. Like I looked around. I even like made sure that it was no one's. Like I'm like, you don't abandon a $50 floaty, and just leave it there. You keep it with you. So I was like, no, this is a gift from the universe. This floaty is for me. So it was a really great joke of like, you can manifest anything, a highlighter on the beach and a free floaty when you don't want to pay $30 to $60 USD for one. But I have 2 more stories because again, I'm a manifesting generator. I don't know, but it's like a game. Once it's a game, it becomes fun. So now we were having fun with this game. So we're driving to the airport and it's time to go home. And our shuttle from the resort to the airport was about 45 minutes. We knew that from when we went there. So on the way back to the airport, we're like, wow, we're going to be so early to the airport, but this is the shuttle time that we have to take. So our shuttle was at 1:20 p.m. and our flight was at 6 p.m. So we should have got to the airport, say around 2:30, and had until about 6 o'clock to get on the flight. So we are in the shuttle going to the airport and there's so much traffic. But we had done this before and there was a lot of traffic. So again, we didn't think anything of it. The first 2 hours went by. They're like, oh, that's why they sent us on the early shuttle. There's traffic, so it's taking more than 45 minutes to get to the airport. And then, it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we're all getting a little worried because our plane is at 5:50, and everybody on our shuttle was on the same plane. And I kept saying, don't worry. Like when we're an hour out, we can get worried. But everyone on the bus started to get worried, and we all started to talk to each other, and we realized we're all on the same flight. We're all on this Air Canada flight. And then I was like, don't worry, we're going to make it. And there's these two young teenage girls on the bus, and they were like, Mom, we're not going to make the flight. Mom, we have to call the other friend. Clearly that wasn't her parents. She's like, we have to call her mom and tell her, Mom, am I not going to school tomorrow? Where are we staying tonight? They were kept freaking out, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, we're going to make the flight. And I just kept saying it out loud to her. And she was like, we're still far away from the airport. I have a map. And of course, none of us had data because all of our phones were off. So we couldn't check to see how far we were from the airport. We couldn't check to see if our plane was delayed, nothing. So we're getting there, and I just kept saying, guys, we're going to make it. Don't worry, guys, we're going to make it. Don't worry. Trust me. Then I want to be like, I'm psychic. But I was like, trust me, we're going to make it. So we're like, okay. So then it's 4:30. Then it's 4:45. And I was like, at 5 o'clock, we can be worried. It said that we were less than 10 kilometers from the airport. And they're like, okay, but we've been moving 500 meters every 45 minutes. So, and I was like, we're going to make it. I'm like, at 5 o'clock, we can be worried. So, of course, it's 5 to 5. And then it's 5 o'clock. And I was like, boarding's only till 5:30. And then we get on the plane that takes off at 5:50. And then I'm like, okay, well, we're going to make it, but our luggage is not. I was like, we're getting on this plane. I kept checking in with my intuition. And I said, we're getting on this plane. So then it became a joke where the people on the bus kept turning to me and they're like, you still think we're getting on the plane? And I was like, yeah, we're making it. Don't worry. I'm like, we're getting on this plane. I'm like, I'm not too sure about if our luggage is making it with us, but we are 100% getting on a plane today that is taking us to Calgary. And they all kept turning around and being like, how much hope do you have now? So, it's 5:15, 5:30, 5:40, 5:50. We're still not at the airport. So they all turn around to me again. They're like, what's it now? I'm like, the plane's going to wait. And they're like, what? I'm like, the plane's going to wait for us. I'm like, there's too many of us here. The plane's waiting for us. They're like, no, it's not. The staff, is going to be working long and this and that and the other thing. And, it's going to be their responsibility to put us up and we're going to have to stay an extra day. And then I start to think oh no, I'm going to have to move my clients for tomorrow. And then what about Archie? And I start to think of all these things. I'm like, no, I'm getting on a plane. My intuition was so strong. I'm like, you're getting on a plane. You're getting there. You're going to Calgary today. So I was like, don't worry, guys. The plane is waiting for us. They're like, the plane is not waiting for us. I'm like, yep, the plane is going to be 2 hours delayed. They're like, that's where your hope is right now? The plane is 2 hours delayed? I said, yes. The plane is 2 hours delayed and it's waiting for us. I was like, we're not the only ones stuck in this traffic. That means all shuttles are stuck in this traffic. This 45-minute journey has been over 5 hours now. That means everybody is in that same case. Air Canada cannot afford to put us all up and put us all on new flights tomorrow. They will wait. I was like, they have to. I was like, the plane's going to be delayed for 2 hours. Everyone's laughing at me. They're like, yeah, the plane's going to be delayed for 2 hours. That's what she thinks now. So for some reason, I don't know why none of us thought to just ask the driver and the person at the front. But when we arrived at the airport, the guy just quickly said, your plane has not left yet. It's an hour delayed. Go to this gate right away. And I just was yelling at the back of the bus, you can manifest anything. I told you guys it's late. And someone at the back of the bus had actually turned on their phone and found out that the plane was late. They're like, yeah, it's an hour late. We're fine. And I was like, okay, perfect. So we're all running to the gate. We're all checking our luggage because that was the only thing I wasn't 100% on. And we're checking the luggage. And then they say, oh, the plane's another 45 minutes delayed. And I was just sitting there beaming. And I was just thinking to myself, you can manifest anything, even your plane being 2 hours delayed. Which brings me to the next manifestation. So we finally get through customs and I just was manifesting that I could get food because I needed to get some food for the ride home. And we had time to go to the bathroom, get food, and literally walk right onto the plane. And where were me and my friend sitting on the way back? both in premium. Not so close to be staring at first class, but it was just like, yep, this is just a game. Manifestation is a game. So between the premium seat on the way there, the highlighter, the floaty, the plane being 2 hours delayed, and then premium seats on the way back, this is your reminder that you can manifest and have anything, even if it's a highlighter on the beach in the middle of Mexico. So that's my story for you guys this week. I hope you liked it. The only announcement that I have for you this week is Mediums in the Mountains. If you want to see a live mediumship reading, a medium named Brie is coming all the way from Ontario to Banff, and we are going to be doing a 2.5-hour live event where we are reading for maybe you. So it is limited tickets, and you get both of us reading your loved ones. So it's going to be very fun. I will leave all the links down below in the show notes. There is a Reiki Level 2 available April 30th and May 1st. Reiki Level 1 is currently on a wait list, but I might do 2 courses in May so that I'm able to open up a course to those who didn't get on the wait list. So all the links you need are down below in the show notes. If you want to book an appointment with me for Distance Reiki, Akashic Records, or Psych K, that will be down below in the show notes as well. And very exciting, I am moving my in-person Reiki office to a bigger and brighter space in Banff. It has windows. I'm very excited. So that's happening this week. So if you come see me anytime in April in person, you'll get to see my new space. So that's really, really exciting. As always, I'll leave all the links down below in the show notes. And if you are listening to this podcast, I would love and appreciate a rating and a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world, and it is a great way to show your appreciation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I will do my normal. I will see you next Tuesday in your ears. Hoping you have a great week. Come back and listen to this episode whenever you need a manifestation reminder, and start manifesting today. Ask for something crazy because you might just get it. See you next week, everybody. Bye.